The bouquet hit the ground first, petals scattering across the pavement. Then came the laughter. A 12-year-old girl stood frozen behind her small flower stand, her hands shaking as she watched a gang of 6 bikers tower over her. One of them, a broad, tattooed man with a cruel grin, grabbed another bouquet, twirling it between his fingers before crushing it in his fist. "You selling flowers or trash, sweetheart?" He smirked, tossing the crumpled petals onto the sidewalk. The girl's voice was small, but firm. "You break it, you buy it." The laughter got louder. Another biker kicked the wooden stand over, sending more flowers tumbling. The leader flipped her cash box over with his boot. Coins scattered onto the pavement. People walked past. Some glanced over, hesitated, then kept moving. No one wanted trouble. But someone had already stopped. A few feet away, Jason Statham slowly set down his coffee. His eyes locked onto the scene, his jaw tightening. The girl clenched her fists. The bikers grinned. Jason pushed his chair back. The bikers had no idea what was about to happen. Before continue, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with Biker Gang, and comment where you're watching from today. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the bustling street. People hurried past, lost in their routines, while the faint scent of fresh flowers mixed with the city's exhaust. At a small makeshift stand on the sidewalk, a 12-year-old girl stood with a determined look in her eyes. She carefully arranged her bouquets, hands working with practiced precision. This wasn't just about selling flowers. It was about survival. Her mother was sick. Medical bills were piling up. Every flower sold was one step closer to keeping the lights on, to keeping food on the table. But today was not a good day. The roar of engines. 6 motorcycles rolled up to the curb, their deep growls slicing through the street noise. Pedestrians instinctively stepped aside, avoiding eye contact as the bikers swung their legs off their seats. The biggest one, a man with a thick beard and a leather jacket covered in patches, sauntered forward. His eyes landed on the flower stand, amusement flickering across his face. "What's this? Some kind of charity event?" Before the girl could answer, one of his men grabbed a handful of flowers and tossed them into the air. Petals fluttered to the ground like discarded confetti. Oops. The laughter exploded. Another biker kicked at the wooden stand, knocking a small vase onto the pavement. Glass shattered, mixing with the crushed petals beneath their boots. The girl's hands clenched. Her voice, small but steady, cut through their laughter. "You break it, you buy it." The leader arched an eyebrow. "Oh, and what if we don't?" He reached for the last intact bouquet, grinning. But before his fingers could close around the flowers, a strong hand clamped down on his wrist. The laughter died instantly. The leader turned, eyes locking onto the stone-cold glare of Jason Statham. "I wouldn't do that." Silence. The bikers had no idea. Their fun was over. The laughter vanished the second Jason's iron grip locked around the leader's wrist. The biker yanked his arm free, glaring. His scarred face twisted into an irritated sneer. "Who the hell are you?" Jason didn't answer. No reaction. No expression. Just silence. A tense beat passed. The gang exchanged amused glances. Jason remained still, eyes locked onto the leader. His presence alone shifted the energy, turning something playful into something unpredictable. The leader scoffed, shaking his head. "Pick up the flowers? Pay up? Who do you think you are?" Jason's voice was low, even, but there was a weight to it that made the gang uneasy. "Pick them up. Pay what you owe. Walk away." The leader blinked, then laughed, loud, forced, a display for his men. "Oh, we got ourselves a tough guy, huh?" One of the bikers, a wiry man covered in tattoos, smirked. "Or what?" Jason didn't answer. He didn't need to. The leader's smirk widened. "That's what I thought." A fist flew toward Jason's face. The biker struck fast, confident, until Jason caught the punch mid-air. The force barely made him flinch. Before the man could react, Jason twisted his wrist, pivoted his stance, and drove a sharp elbow into his ribs. A sickening crack. The biker's breath hitched. He gasped, stumbling backward before crumpling to the pavement, clutching his side. Silence. The gang tensed. Their cocky amusement wavered. Two of them reacted at once, lunging. Jason sidestepped cleanly. The first biker crashed into the side of a parked car. The impact rattled through the metal as he slumped down, groaning. The second barely had time to process what had happened before Jason swept his legs out from under him. He hit the pavement hard, skull smacking against the concrete with a dull thud. 3 down. The leader's smile was gone now. He exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. Then he forced another chuckle. "All right, boys. He wants to play." Jason flexed his fingers, rolling his shoulders slightly. His expression hadn't changed once. "No, I don't." The gang hesitated now, uncertain. The girl clutched the edge of her broken stand, eyes darting between the bikers and the man who had just dismantled 3 of them without breaking a sweat. A fourth biker snarled, reaching for something tucked in his waistband, a knife. Jason's eyes flicked to the movement. Before the blade could even leave its sheath, Jason was already moving. He closed the gap in 2 steps, grabbed the biker's wrist, and slammed it against the nearest light pole. The knife clattered to the ground. The biker yelped in pain, his hand throbbing. Jason grabbed the man's jacket and launched him backward. He hit the pavement, rolling over twice before coming to a stop, groaning in agony. The last 2 bikers hesitated. The leader clenched his jaw. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. Jason took a slow step forward. The tension was thick enough to suffocate. "Pick up the flowers." "Hey." "Walk away." This time, nobody laughed. The street was dead silent. A few minutes ago, the bikers were laughing, mocking, breaking flowers for fun. Now, their crew lay scattered, groaning, some clutching their ribs, others too dazed to move. The leader's nostrils flared as he wiped the corner of his mouth. His pride was cracked, but not broken. Not yet. He straightened and spat on the ground. "Get him." Biker 1, first to fall. The first biker lunged, throwing a wild punch. Jason moved like lightning. Before the fist could get close, he ducked, grabbed the biker's jacket, and used his own momentum against him. With effortless power, Jason flipped the man over his shoulder. The biker hit the ground with a bone-rattling thud. His back smacked against the pavement, his breath escaping in a ragged gasp. He rolled onto his side, groaning, done. Biker 2, the metal pipe. The second thug wasn't deterred. With a snarl, he swung a rusty metal pipe straight at Jason's ribs. Jason caught it. Mid-air. The biker's face twisted in shock as Jason's iron grip locked around the pipe. He barely had time to react before Jason yanked it forward, ripping it from his hands. Jason twirled the pipe once. Then, with surgical precision, he swung it into the biker's ribs. Crack. The impact sent the man stumbling backward, clutching his side, gasping. His knees buckled, and he crumpled onto the ground, barely conscious. Biker 3. The fear kicks in. The last standing thug froze. His eyes darted around. His crew was wrecked. He took a step back, hands trembling. Jason turned his head slightly, locking eyes with him. "Pick up the flowers. Pay her back. Now." The biker hesitated, looking at his leader for backup. The final mistake. The leader pulls a knife. The crowd gasped. A mother yanked her child back. Bystanders took cautious steps away. Fear hung in the air. Jason, unmoved, unshaken, unbothered. The leader's jaw clenched. He lunged, blade flashing. Jason shifted, so fast it was over before it even started. His hand snapped up, grabbing the leader's wrist in an iron grip. The biker grunted, eyes widening as Jason twisted. Hard. Crack. The knife clattered onto the pavement. The leader barely had a second to react before. Jason's knee slammed into his gut. The biker's body folded like paper. His breath left him in a strangled wheeze as he collapsed onto his hands and knees, gasping. The fight was over. Jason Statham stood untouched. The bikers? Destroyed. Not just physically. Humiliated. Crushed. Exposed. The leader groaned, rolling onto his side. His breathing was ragged, his body aching from the brutal knee strike. He coughed, spitting onto the pavement before forcing himself to look up at Jason. His eyes burned with defiance, but there was something else beneath it now. Fear. You don't know who you're messing with. Jason didn't flinch, didn't blink. Instead, he crouched down, calm, controlled, terrifying in his silence. That's where you're wrong. Jason's voice was low, even dangerous. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. The leader swallowed hard. Jason leaned in slightly, his stare drilling into the man's skull. You touch her stand again. His voice dropped to something colder, sharper. You'll be drinking through a straw for the rest of your life. Silence. One of the bikers scrambled forward, grabbing the leader's arm. Another picked up their scattered jackets. Police car light, the gang was broken. One by one, they stumbled toward their bikes, humiliated. Their cocky bravado was gone, replaced by defeat. The leader spat on the ground, his pride clinging to its last threads. His voice shook, but he forced the words out anyway. This isn't over. Jason smirked. Yes, it is. Police car light engines roared. One last glare. Then, they sped off, tires screeching. The street fell silent. It was over. The girl's hands were still trembling. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She stared at Jason, this man who had stepped in without hesitation and ended the nightmare in mere minutes. Jason glanced down, spotting a crushed flower near his boot. He bent down, picked it up, dusted it off, and placed it gently back on the stand. Looks like you're still in business. The girl blinked. The tension in her chest loosened, just a little. Then, something unexpected happened. A businessman who had been watching stepped forward. Without a word, he pulled out his wallet and dropped a crisp bill onto the stand. A woman followed, picking up a bouquet and handing the girl double the asking price. Sales skyrocketed. One by one, strangers came forward, buying flowers, not just for the product, but for the girl. She wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. Jason turned to leave, his job done. But then, wait. Her voice was small but firm. Jason stopped. Why did you help me? For the first time, he hesitated. Then, without looking back. Because someone should have. And just like that, he walked away, blending into the crowd. The girl stared after him, the weight of what had happened settling in. This day changed everything. This wasn't just about flowers. It wasn't about money. It was about standing up to bullies. Jason Statham didn't need applause. He didn't need recognition. He stepped in because it was the right thing to do. True strength isn't about power. It's about protecting those who can't fight back. As the girl sold out of flowers that day, her world had changed. She wasn't just a kid struggling to make ends meet anymore. She had seen firsthand what real strength looked like, not in fists, not in threats, but in action. And as she placed the last bouquet into a customer's hands, she knew one thing for sure. One day, when someone needs help, I'll be the one who steps in. The strong protect the weak. That's the Jason Statham way.